Hi everyone, thought I would do a workshop tour for the start of the new year. A lot of things have changed in the last few months, so sort of kind of be a good thing to sort of show how things are changing. There's a lot of bits I want to get changed still. I've been here 2 years today, like this day 2 years ago I got the keys, so sort of started moving in end of this week last year, oh sorry 2 years back. So like I've not had a huge amount of time here yet, especially because you've been working in that time, so you can't be changing stuff all the time. But got a few bits done this last few weeks, and a few bits done the kind of couple of months previous to that. So I've got to show you around them. But what I do is I probably come in the front door, sort of show you as I work in, sort of like how I'd come in and you know what there is as you come into the building. I mean, the building itself is about 55 foot that way and about sort of 35 foot that way, but it's chopped up into little bits and it's got 13-inch thick solid brick walls everywhere, so that chops out a bit of space as well. But yeah, sort of give you a show around, show you what's changed, and sort of go through some of the changes that I'm hoping to make this year, and maybe some more long-term changes a year or two into the future as well. Right then, so coming in from the front door here, first thing you get as you come in, there's like this little alleyway type thing, and that just gets used as storage. It's got timber racks up there. At the minute it's just got a whole load of drawer boxes for a kitchen stored down there, but there'll be, not normally there obviously, delivery blankets, a little bit of racking for kind of stuff that I use regular-ish, you know, just like drawer runners and stuff like that. In here there's again some parts of the kitchen, a couple of big deep pan drawers and some door larder racks, but it's become a bit of a dumping ground for like my personal crap. So it's got golf clubs and old drums and guitars and a load of books and an old computer that I don't actually use at all anymore. So one of the things that I do want to get done in the relatively short-term future is this whole room completely emptied out, get some kind of racking up, and I want this to be like a storeroom for goods out. So this is going to be, you know, somewhere that I can put things like the drawer boxes that are just kind of here, which are easy to kick at the minute. Be a good place to put them, put things like finished doors, get some racking in there, like, you know, like adjustable shelving, that I could put doors and boxes and bits on. But just having a nice space. It's got a door here and there's a door into the main workshop, so I can shut 2 doors on it to stop dust getting on it. I can blanket it over and it kind of keeps that stuff nice and clean. So that's something that is a plan. I think what I'll do is when I get it cleared out, I'll probably give it a coat of paint and whatever and try and tidy it up a little bit, because it's the first thing you see as you come in, and obviously at the minute it just looks like, yeah, well, I don't know what it looks like, it's a bloody mess. So that would be one thing that would be nice to get done. So then coming through here, on the right behind this door I've got a notice board, and it tends to just have drawings a bit. It's sort of like, you know, any sectional drawings or jobs coming up or whatever. It depends how organised I am half the time. They don't go on there until they're getting used. Like I say, a bit of storage in here, it's like machine spares and things, various bits that you need. A load of little sticks for when the drawers aren't here. Quite often I'll have a load of timber stacked up down here, so it gives me an option of having somewhere to put some timber in stick. And then we're going through the main door. So one thing that's changed immediately, you see, is I've got the, let's try and get this tripod up so you can try not to be so wobbly, make people feel seasick. Got the sawdust burner back in again, and I have above it got a big fan. Now normally that's always on when the burner's on. It's not on at the minute because obviously it makes a bit of noise. Dartboard. Yeah, just because noise for the camera and that, but it makes a massive difference. If you've got a burner in your workshop and you haven't got a big fan above it to blow some heat about, I really recommend that you do that, because it does make a really big difference to how, you know, this corner will get dead warm without the fan on, but it doesn't get all the way across, you know, 30-40 foot down there. With the fan on, it recirculates the heat. So let's kind of go from there. So we're coming in, and that there is, if you're wondering, it's a Technic Stoves, English company. I think they're based in Herefordshire. Really good sawdust burner primarily, but you can burn wood in it. We can burn anything in it really, but it's good for sawdust. What I tend to do is fill it up with sawdust in the morning, light it, and then it's awkward to put sawdust in it through the day because you don't want to get like dust blasting up and then exploding in your face. So through the day I just load it up with wood. But what I've got is throughout the year I just save all the offcuts in big sacks, and they're in a store about sort of, well, a couple of 100 yards away, it's miles away, but I store them all down there, and then come the winter I bring them in, chuck them in these pop-up garden things, and that there I keep the workshop warm. At the minute it's like, I think it's about probably 4 degrees outside, it's like 12 degrees in here. I've been in here an hour or so, it's got nice and warm. so that works really well. So yeah, pretty pleased with getting that in. That's something that I had in the old workshop. When moved here, didn't get it put in the first winter, didn't get it quite in the second winter, but I've got it in for the third winter at least, so that's a good start. Coming round this corner, sorry about the judderiness. So I've got like a little desk, and I did have a bigger rolling trolley thing there with my computer on it before, but I just tended to find the more space I've got where my computer is, the more just crap I put around it. So just having something small enough for me to get my diary, a couple of notebooks and my laptop, that works pretty well for me. Drawings for current jobs are on the back of the sander normally. So coming round here, we've got the air compressor. It's only a small one, it's like 100 litre, I think, it might be 90 litre. It's a weird size, I think it's 90 litre. 3 horsepower, belt driven, it's fairly quiet. It's sort of, I think I'd like to get like a 200 litre upright, gives me a little bit more capacity, but I didn't want to get a 200 litre long one. It was one of those things, my old compressor blew up during lockdown, and I don't know if anyone in the UK was trying to buy a compressor at the time, but like the usual suspects, Machine Mart and that, where I wanted to just go and get one that day, they were completely out of stock of everything. It was like a shortage, so that one was one I bought online that had next day delivery. So the main reason I got it is just because I could get it the next day, and I was in the middle of a job, and obviously I can't use the sander, and a lot of the other bits near use air as well. So we've got an old mortiser, that's barely ever used. I could probably get rid of it, to be honest, because I don't do a lot of doors and windows and stuff anymore, but it might come in handy. I think it's probably 100 odd years old. It's real heavy, it's cast, it's got, everything works real nice, and real nice smooth movements, and the clamps are real good. You know, I can't complain at all. It's not sprung, it's actually got a cantilever weight on it for the head, so, but again, don't use it a lot, but it's handy to have there just in case. So going next to that, we've got, this is the big diesel heater. Gets used a lot less now, obviously now we've got the wood burner in, but it's good for instant heat. It's massively powerful. I think it's like 60 kilowatt output or something like that, so you know, it's the equivalent of having a lot of little electric fan heaters on. But that gives you a nice bit of instant heat, and it's a real quick way. And the other cool thing about it is it goes in this ducting, which goes through to there, which is a spray room. So it gives me some heat in the spray room when I'm on it. So after I'm finished spraying, flick that on and really kind of like nearly use it like a bake room. So coming down here, we've got Hoffman dovetail key machine and Craig Foreman. There's only one hose to the extraction for them, they share it, and I just swap it between them when I need them. Craig Foreman, fantastic. Hoffman dovetail machine is pretty good as well. Joints aren't massively strong, so I don't use them on some applications, but for just general base unit frames and stuff, they're good. The Craig, for the money you spend on it, it's probably the best thing you can buy for money. I mean, I only use pocket holes for one thing, and that's attaching face frames to my cabinets. Sometimes use them for knocking up a jig or something, but I don't use them for like face frames or doors or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. But I do use them for fitting the face frames to the boxes, the carcasses, and they're great for that. So coming through here, there is a little diddy grinder, tool mech sharpener, and a real small old drill press. I mean, that drill press gets used mainly just for any kind of metal I need to drill, so I don't get metal near my bigger drill press. The grinder was my granddad's, and it's one of these super cheap, I think probably come from Woolworths or something, but it still works and it's handy to have about. And then the tool mech's just one. Oops, sorry, that's one of the basic ones. Down here, there's this old filing cabinet, that was my granddad's as well, that come with the grinder. This has got a bit of various spindle tooling in it. All chucked in there, got some big cornice blocks. There's a load of old window tooling from when I used to do a lot more windows. And then, I don't know if you can see it up here, this has just got, and that's more spindle tooling really. There's some Euro blocks and rebate blocks and a couple of groovers, some bearing cutters. I think there's some carbide groovers, you know, like resharpenable types rather than take turn blades. Just a load of old various knives. You kind of gather them over the years, need a profile and buy them and use it once, and then ends up in there. Got a bit of sandpaper on top. This is the thermostat for the diesel burner, which is really handy because you can kind of set it, if it's really cold, I'll put the burner on, the wood burner, and I'll set the thermostat real low on there, and just if the wood burner can't keep it warm in here, it'll just kick in every now and then. And occasionally if I'm doing a job where I'm really concerned about the sort of tolerance, and it's all solid wood, no MDF or, you know, not a coir, just something where there could be a lot of movement. I'll sometimes turn the thermostat down low and leave it ticking on continuously overnight, so it'll kick in a few times in the night and just put some dry heat in the room. It just helps to make sure that I'm not going to get the wood picking up too much moisture. So that's not a, you know, not a bad little thing to have. It's quite handy. Got it's an old SCM spindle moulder, and it's a T100, I think, 5.5 horsepower. It was not a runner when I got it. It's got electric speed control, which is quite cool. It's actually, I've sheared the rise and fall on it about 6 months ago. It's like 300 quid for the spare little rack for the rack and pinion, which seems insane to me. But luckily I've sheared it in a place where I don't really need to replace it yet. I will do it at some point, but yeah, I've got enough movement on the head that it doesn't matter too much. But I mean, that'll take really big tooling, which is one of the reasons I got it when I did. I think it's got like 400mm through the table or something like that, 380. It's huge, massive, great big table rings for a 5.5 horsepower spindle. You're never going to use a block that big because I don't think you'd spin it. But it has got the capacity there, which is handy just for occasionally if you wanted to use a big block. I've got a few big window tooling blocks for like doing tenon and stuff, so it's been handy occasionally for that. Although it hasn't got a sliding table, so that's obviously slightly less than ideal. Going over here, we've got the Hoffman notcher. I think I've shown that before a few times, but for anyone who hasn't seen it, it cuts the notches, face frames. Really cool bit of kit. Does a really good job. Quite specific, but does a great job of the one job that it does do, and it's something that I do a lot of, so it was worth the investment for me, really. I mean, they've gone up since I've had that one quite a while, but I think they're about four and a half grand with that now, something like that, which, you know, a lot of money really for a Mulso notcher. There's not a motor or anything, and it's just a few bits of cast and some blades. But yeah, so that's that one. Some toolbox down there. Here is, I tend to leave this as like a little bit of a sanding station. I've got some light up there that goes across at a raking angle for picking up sanding, quite handy. This is one of the things I'd like to change this year. I want to make a downdraft table that's going to live here with a vac that lives under it, because that little Fez tool MIDI only gets used for sanding. So I'd like it to have somewhere for the vac to house in it, like a little garage port thing for the vac to go in, downdraft table that attaches to, I've done the extractor, there's a 5-inch outlet on the extractor there, so I'm going to use the main extractor to use the 5-inch input to go for the suction for the downdraft table, and have like a little permanent sanding bench that just lives over there. I might have to shuffle things around a little bit to get it to fit in, but that'd be quite handy, I think. So going round, this is one big change. I've knocked a hole through to the spray room, which is a massive improvement. That's made, I would say that's been the biggest difference since we moved here, just having some space. I mean, I'll take you through in there. There's not much to show because I'm not spraying at the minute, but you know, it just gives me somewhere to put stuff. So like I've got a few carts here that are just full of carcass components. Might just take this phone off the tripod a second, one sec. Just show you around a bit. So, you know, a ton of carcass components and stuff. Got a few big larder doors and some smaller doors. Got some units. Everything's just sat in here. It just gives you a little bit of room to move. You know, even just like those big face frames, they're 2.2 metres tall and 1400 wide. It just gives you somewhere to put it where it's not in the way. So, and I'm never spraying and making at the same time. I work by myself, so it's not like I'm going to be needing the spray booth and the workshop. So I keep everything on trolleys. I've got loads of these little red wheeled flat trolleys now, and I've got a few of these sort of parts trolleys. This one's quite handy actually. I use that quite a lot. That's just like all made out of this one here and this one. They both come out of a single sheet of 18mm MDF, and they're done pretty quick. You all grooved in joints here, so you can assemble them in no time at all. So they work great for just putting loads of components on, but there's a load of carcass parts there that still need finish going on them. But that gives you an idea. There's an extractor there which I will use at some point. It's got a 7.5 horsepower fan on it, but I don't really want the rest of the extractor because it's got crap filters. So the plan is to kind of take that apart, use the fan off it, build my own housing with some good canister filters, 4 good canister filters, and then have it into a big hopper that I can then use to roll out and put that on wheels with a compression seal and a bit of a levered arm to pull it down. But that's a project for probably the summer. I'm not going to get around to doing that anytime soon. I've got some temporary doors on here at the minute, which are just there really just to give me some way of keeping the dust from the workshop in. Again, they'll need replacing at some point, but they were just made out of some scrap MDF, put a bit of filter in both of them so that there's clean air coming in when I'm spraying. So coming round, you've seen the sander. If you're interested in the sander, that's a old model, real old model. I got that at auction, again not working, and fixed it out myself. But it gave me a lot of problems this last year, but I think, fingers crossed, got it sorted now. Shouldn't say that really, should I? Touch wood. I've got the planer, which you've probably seen it in previous videos, with a helical head. Sorry, not helical head, spiral head. It's not got a proper helical head because they are parallel to the bed. But that's a good planer. I'm quite pleased with that, really. I mean, record power generally considered a bit naff, but this is like the older one. This was European made. It was made in Bulgaria by a company called ZM Stamana back before record went. I think it's kind of got replaced when they took over Startright's name. I think they used the Startright to take over this kind of level. I think the FS 300 or 310 or whatever is kind of like the modern equivalent, but it's 13-inch wide, so it's like a decent width where it's that little bit wider than a standard 12-inch. Sometimes just that little bit of extra width's really handy for drawers, pan drawers and stuff. So coming around there, say we've got the four-sider planer. Again, people have seen that before. That's an old Dominion, again bought at auction, again not working properly, but it works now. Want to upgrade into spiral blocks on that and get some digital readouts on it, makes setup time a bit quicker. That's my hospital bed bench, which is where I work 90% of the time. I work mainly off of that and off of trestles because I've got limited space. I haven't really got room to have big assembly tables. It'd be nice, you know, I'd love to, but I haven't got it. So that's got wheels, I can move it, and I work a lot off the trestles. I've got, you can't see it now, but behind all of that scrap that I need to sort through from the carcasses I've been making yesterday, there is a torsion box. It's 2.4 metres by 750, so that's like 2.6 by 8 foot, and that goes on top of a couple of trestles, a couple of saw-horses, and that makes like a nice flat glue up area. It's made out of melamine as well, so it's easy to wipe up glue and stuff on it if you get a bit of PU glue or something on it. Bandsaw is there. That's the hammer one, had that a while. It's okay. I mean, I'm not all that impressed by hammer bandsaw. It replaced an old charmwood that I had, and it was an old charmwood, so I guess it might have been better than the modern ones, but I think the charmwood was just as good, if not a better machine really. But you know, people seem to rave about hammer, but I can't say I've been massively impressed. It's okay, it's just, is what it is, it's just okay really. So round here we've got, that's like a biggish bench, like 5 foot deep and 10 foot wide, and then I've got some 8x4 sheets underneath it. Just a bit of storage, a bit of flat storage. Got some proper bearers made out of metal, and that's all shimmed up to be dead level, so that I know that I can get a really nice flat board in there and it'll stay flat. That's my main tools that I use most of the time. So that's got like my hand tools and my day-to-day tools in it. I've got, coming round this way, you can see it's just a load of kitchen face frames and doors and stuff there that are ready for being sorted, and need hinges cutting in and stuff. Come around this way. They're the bulk of the clamps that I mainly use, these parallel ones. I've got some various other clamps kicking around. There's a load of old sash clamps and T-bars on top of the plate, on top of the sander as well, but I barely use them anymore now. I'm not doing windows much, but they're there. Got a little cart, that's really handy. I sort of put it up next to where I'm working, keep my tools on it, and then that keeps your work surface a bit free and clear for what you're doing. Little cabinet for putting glue in, boombox for music, obviously important, some screws and stuff. Those there are just a couple of cheap rolled in cabinets, sort of those cheap Chinese generic ones. They're alright. I just put like consumable bits I need regular, so it's got sandpaper and sanding discs and various odds and ends in really. Panel saw right in the middle, that's like the real workhorse of the workshop. I don't have a cross-cut saw set up, I don't have a radial or a chop saw in the workshop. I keep my chop saw just for site work, you know, my mitre saw sort of thing. So that does all the cross-cutting, so it really is, you know, probably the main sort of workhorse of the workshop really. Just above it I've got one of these air filter things. I need to change the bearings in it because it's getting a bit rattly, but that's on, that runs on the block and I don't know if I'll show you one sec. So there's this beam that takes the roof, and this here, like, runs sand in the middle or something. I can roll it over and plug it in over there, and it just works as a bit of extra air filtration over there. And so I don't hit it all the time when I'm moving sheets of ply and stuff around. I can just shove it back over here out of the way, and it sort of stays out of the way. Then that's quite handy. So that's going round that side, and then what we've really got left is this bit of space here I've kind of kept clear now. It's a bit of extra assembly room. Obviously a load of ply and stuff, MDF and that piled up there at the minute. But one that's clear, that's like an extra sort of 8 foot by sort of 5 foot of assembly space, handy for putting a few units there. Got the multi-coal tenon, little twin head multi-coal, I can't say it, multi-co tenon. Has got newer white hill blocks on, so that takes scribe knives and whatever as well. That's the current dust extractor. It's only 3 horsepower, so it is quite a lot of ducting on this for that size extractor, which is part of the reason why I got that 7.5 horsepower one. I was kind of hoping when I got it, I bought it from an auction, I didn't see it, I just bought it blind. I was kind of hoping it might be the same diameter as Lee's on top here, but it's not. It's much bigger. They're like, I don't know, I think they're 480, and that's 650mm diameter, so I can't just pop them straight on and use it, so that's a bit disappointing, but I will make up a proper thing. I mean, they probably would restrict the airflow too much anyway, really. It's a lot of air to be flowing through 2 small canisters like that, but I think I'll get another 2, make up a box, make up its own filter, and then have that as a bit of a, you know, a lot more powerful extractor. Maybe save that one for just using on the panel saw, because at the minute the panel saw just goes into 2 separate canister type extractors, because it's mainly MDF dust and I don't want to mix it in with that, because that stuff there, if it's chips, it gets used for the horses, so don't want to breathe in a load of MDF. Around here, this used to be next to the front shutter door. It's just a router table. It's got my little Lee dovetail jig underneath it. Not bad little router table, don't use it a huge amount, but it's handy to have. Good for just setting up, for just taking off arises or chamfers or something. Over here we've got the, this is a spindle moulder. It's just a cheap generic spindle moulder. It's sold under loads of different names, but it's just a cheap Chinese spindle moulder. And to be honest, it's fine. I leave it with a groover set in it, 9mm groover in it all the time, and that just gets used for doing drawer bottoms, shaker doors. That's its whole thing. You know, it's just set up for doing that, and it never does anything else. And it's nice just to have the second spindle. I did used to have 3, but there's just not the room for 3 in there, and that was even better because I could leave one set for a mould, one set up for like a groove. I could leave the tenon set up for doing a tenon for like the cabinet doors, and then that gave you the last one for doing like odds and bits on. So if you was running up a skirting profile or cornice or something, it was quite handy for that. Next to that, I've got the big old Wadkin drill press. I think that actually needs a bearing change now. It's starting to get a little bit rattly, so that's going to be next on the list of jobs to do, really. So yeah, that's the main workshop. I try and do a little pan around view to give you a bit of an idea of how it goes. So it sort of comes around here like this and like this, and I'll take you out and into the other side. I got cut off a bit abruptly there. I had a courier turn up with some bits. I'll just kind of do try and walk around smoothly without making everyone feel travel sick, but yeah, that gives you an idea of the kind of overall space in here. Going through here, say that's the finishing room and doubles up as a store space for stuff as I'm making it. Bit of outfeed support there. So yeah, you get like a rough idea, and I say this is where, you know, bulk of the work gets done, so this is where I spend most of my time, so it's nice having the wood burner and stuff in here. So go through here, and this is the other really big change in the last few months, is some of you remember about this this room at the end here, which was just really like a junk store, and it had a bit of sheet storage in. I used to put a few bits and bobs in here. But now it does have a CNC in here, so that's quite a big upgrade for me. You know, as a small one-man shop, it's nice to have sort of like something a bit more productive, that stuff's going on when you're doing other things, so that's quite cool. So on this wall we've got storage for sheet goods, and there's easily enough room. Right, it's not a massive room, so it's hard to get back very far. Easily enough room to get 5 packs in here. So I can get a pack on the bottom, pack on the top, and I can get 3 packs on there. There's about a pack and a half there at the minute. But the only problem with that is obviously if I want stuff at the bottom I can't. So what it's really better for is 3 packs. So pack here or something, pack here or something, and a pack on top. At the minute there's a whole load of oak. You can see it there. It's actually quite nice. It's 3 balls that are fully slabbed through, so real nice grain and colour match. That's for a big oak job that's coming up. So there's about 90 odd cubic feet of oak I think I got in the end. It was, yeah, it's a couple of cubic metres, over 2 cubic metres, so it's 90 odd cubic foot. But yeah, CNC. So at the minute it's on the main extraction that's coming through there. Bit Heath Robinson, had to get it up running quickly because the technician was coming to install the machine, so it was a bit of a quick job. But I'd like to get this moved, and the other thing I'd really like to get done is knock through here into the spray room. I was originally thinking of knocking through here, but CNCs are bloody noisy. Especially it's got a, I think it's a 6 kilowatt or 5.5 kilowatt, sorry, 7.5 horsepower vac pump, and that does make hell of a drone. So I think if I have some doors into there, decent doors with rubber seals on there, and the doors on the spray booth, it'd mean there's 2 doors between where I'm working and the CNC, which would just be quite nice. At the minute it's a real pain because when the weather's rubbish, which as you can see at the minute it's not particularly nice, you have to go all the way around outside and keep going in and out, and you're letting the heat out, keep opening the door. But we had time to knock that first doorway through, but we didn't have time to do the second one, unfortunately. But yeah, I'd like to get this rack moved as well. Probably get a timber store shed built somewhere else. And yeah, that's the new CNC. I'll give you a little walkthrough of it actually, just in case anyone is interested. So it's Faber-Tech. I don't know if they're available in other countries. It's supplied in the UK by a company called Machinery by Goldcrest, a guy called Charles. Yeah, this is an 8x4 vac bed, so it's got a 5.5 kilowatt vac bed on it. It's a 6 kilowatt air cooled spindle, and that is pretty much most of what you need to know. 8x4 1325 kind of designates the size. That's 1300 by 2.5 meters, so that's your standard 8x4 bed. It only just went through that door. It was like millimeters either side to get it through the door, so definitely couldn't have gone any bigger. But yeah, that's it. And to be fair, it's been cracking. I've been cutting 18mm veneered goods with a sort of 6mm compression cutter at 13-14 meters a minute, so for doing carcass components it's absolutely spot on, and I'm sure I'll find more uses for it as time goes on. I've done a bit of CNC work for other people as well, which is quite nice, just CNCing out some shapes and cutting out some odd shapes and stuff, and I've made those trolleys on the CNC, which is nice. You drop an 18mm sheet on it, press go, walk away, come back 20 minutes later and you've got all your components cut out for a trolley. But yeah, really pleased with that. And I say, keep this sheet rack in here. I'm still on the lookout for an electric stacker that is low enough to get under these doors, and that's the real tricky part, is getting them under these doors. So I'll keep looking out for one. It needs to be a second hand one. I'm not going to buy a new one for the amount I use it. Not really got the budget for it, so that's something I will look out for. But it will, to be honest, it works quite well with the CNC being there, because these packs are just to the right of it. That gap in between is like, I think it's like 6'6", so an 8-foot sheet can kind of like hook sort of 8 or 9 inches onto the CNC, but still be supported the other end, and I just slide it. So I'm not actually having to physically lift it, if that makes sense. So that's quite nice. And then, yeah, just storing it. I probably want to put a rack lattice as well. It was actually, I don't know if you can see from the thing, but it's actually too tight to get a rack next to that. So maybe I could do it if I used the same legs again or something. I don't know, I might be able to find a way around it, but I don't know, it seems a bit tight for doing it. But it would be nice to have a rack so I could get 4 packs in and still have access to everything. That down there is just a little new hoover that I got just purely for backing off the bed on the CNC between sheet changes. So yeah, that's I think that's pretty much everything that's new. I say probably not interesting for people who have seen the workshop before, might not even be interesting to people who haven't, but it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on here and some of the upgrades. Say it's slow, work by myself, and I'm working, so it's not like I've just got time to do big changes. You know, if I could take a month out, I could soon get a lot of these things done, which would be nice. But you know, you can't when you're working for yourself and you're the only person. Just taking a month out is a pipe dream, really. So, and if I did take some time off, I'd probably sooner go on holiday, to be completely honest. But yeah, that's the new CNC. So that's the new building. The doorway would be just there, and I'll sort of show you where that would come out in here. I think you can probably kind of work it out anyway from where I've been walking around, but got the fan on now that I stopped in here, and soon kicks the heat out. So yeah, that would bring the doorway itself, then would be going through kind of just over here, sort of behind those two there. So I want to replace these wall racks with some mobile racks anyway, because they're more handy. but they were just a quick solution, quick and cheap and easy. If you've got the wall space for it, that slotted twin slot shelving stuff's really good for storage for like spray racks and stuff. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Everyone kind of knows roughly what's going on with it, and say Happy New Year to everyone. It'll probably be halfway through the year before I get around to actually posting this, so that might not be such a relevant comment, but you never know, I might get my finger out and get it posted quicker. So have a good one, and cheers for hanging about for this ridiculously long video. Cheers.